Right now, I am really pleased to welcome StreamGuys product manager, Robert Minnix, to our group. And I'm going to mute everybody to get rid of background noise here uh, to get started. And of course, questions are, I'm sure he'll tell us when we can ask questions. Uh, Robert's got a lot of information on all facets of streaming. And we'll turn it over to you, sir. You will need to unmute.
I looked over and saw the little red slash mark and was like, ah, great. Thank you for reminding me. As I was just introduced, my name is Robert Minnix, the product manager for StreamGuys. What I would like to go over today with everyone who's here is our SGRecast product and some of the ancillary services of ours that help make broadcasting and content repurposement very currently. SGCast is a cloud-first platform that StreamGuys provides to our clients. It is certainly new for many broadcasters that have been traditionally only terrestrially streaming and are only just now getting into the actual internet streaming broadcast space. But if I go ahead and go through, SGRecast is a platform that StreamGuys has put together that handles a number of different use cases for clients. Primarily what our largest sector of clients are working with are using our system to automatically record archives of their shows, either take those archives and automatically reproduce them into broadcasts for 24/7 side channel content, for example, to make sure that if anyone ever wants to listen to a linear version of a personality stream, for example, that's there for them to do, or to automatically have those archives get associated with podcasts and have their audience be able to, as soon as a show has completed for the day, be available automatically via on demand and have those shows syndicated through the standard platforms like iTunes, Spotify, etc. Or more commonly these days, having those podcasts be readily available on their websites via players or in mobile apps that they're starting to actually use. There are a few other very powerful things that Recast does, and mostly that's related to how we enable recording for clients and the things that we can do to help automate workflows for people, but also in terms of some of the special features that our system can enable, like DVR for both audio and video, and also the ability to automatically create workflows based on the metadata that you're sending with your content. So let me go ahead and progress through. I've mentioned a number of this before already, but some of the main use cases that our clients are using the system for are for that recording and rebroadcasting workflow, or that recording and automatic podcasting that I mentioned. But there are a few very interesting things that our system can help people enable that sort of stem more into the creative side of things. Mostly that will relate to blackouts like you see listed here. You can use our system to automatically take any piece of content you might want, any kind of replacement audio you might need, and broadcast that over your stream, so that, say you have a weekly Sunday show that you're not allowed to syndicate over digital, so your stream itself cannot have it, but your OTA broadcast can, and you're using the same sort of simulcast audio for your terrestrial and your digital. What we can do is actually, during that period of time, broadcast alternate content out to your stream using SGRecast, so that that content that is unavailable to, or you're not licensed to properly broadcast over digital, can instead be something entirely different. It could be a re-airing of a prior broadcast if you already have that recorded on the system, or it could be completely different alternate content, something like this content's unavailable right now, or anything like that. That's especially big for sports broadcasters who are not even maybe traditionally only sports broadcasters, but like affiliate stations that are broadcasting sports games, for example, that can have their locale have access to that game audio, but they can't have their digital stream that's potentially accessible globally also have that game audio. So there are a number of things that our system helps enable. The last point that you can see here on our main overview, of course, is that the Recast has a full API for controlling and getting any of the data out from the system. So if you're looking at advanced workflows where you want to enable an existing system of yours, say the station has a web CMS for the website that has been where content archives have been traditionally uploaded to directly, but that is no longer a sustainable or reasonable practice. You can actually very simply use an API to integrate with us and have workflows within that existing CMS that maybe your producers or your volunteers even are more used to, and you don't want them having to learn a new system. But you can easily plug our system into yours to accommodate any of that additional functionality, like recording, broadcasting, podcasting, etc. So let's just get into what we have. One of the biggest things that SGRewind does is record audio or video content. A major point to clarify here is that SGRewind can record any publicly available live stream. So if you have your existing live stream on a different provider, and you're looking to add functionality to your workflows and make use of some of the automation and powerful things that we provide via SGRewind, that can still be done with your existing provider if you didn't either want or have the opportunity to migrate to new services to leverage this system. So you don't necessarily have to worry about anything like being a Triton client and being stuck in a contract for the next year and a half, or whatever it might be, and wanting to be able to get access to a lot of these features, but not being able to do so because you think you might have to be an actual StreamGuys hosting and streaming client. You have that functionality. You don't. But what we do enable, regardless of where that live stream is coming from, is afford you a couple different opportunities to record it. One of the main and sort of initial feature sets that we released with the product a couple years back when we released SGRewind was scheduled recording. So this is very similar to creating a clock for your station for what you're actually broadcasting throughout your automation system or playing back through your automation system. If you have a show is going through every day, Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m., all you have to do is plug that 2 to 4 p.m. daily schedule into our system, and then every day 2 to 4, we'll go ahead, connect to your live stream, pull down an archive for the next 2 hours, and as soon as it's done, make that available for podcasts or rebroadcasting, even if you really want to. Scheduled recording is very easy for many people to set up. So you can imagine that if you don't have an existing metadata system, for example, flushed out on your side, maybe all of your particular shows and programs don't have cues or cuts related to them appropriately that could identify them via metadata, but you do have a very strict clock that you're working against, scheduled recording is going to get you where you need to go. While we're recording the audio, we also are recording the metadata if there is any. So if, for example, you don't have the show itself metadata, like when it's starting and stopping, but you do have, let's say, the program data that's coming through during it, any of the music data that's coming through during that program, if you're archiving a music show that you might only be keeping around for 2 weeks, for example, after the fact, we do still record and then present that back to you as needed in our system so that you can see what was actually broadcast during that period of time. But the biggest thing is just getting that scheduled period of audio and then being able to publish it to a broadcast or a podcast automatically. The other method of recording in our system is metadata based. This is the much more powerful, much more flexible version of recording in the system. So if you have, a very well put together automation system, exactly when shows are going through, even though you have maybe 20 to 30 different segments that are going to play through for a particular show, you still have the ability to have a cut or a particular piece of content that plays through at the start and at the stop of your particular program. And that metadata can flow through your encoder as needed. We can see whatever the arbitrary metadata is that you're sending, and have it flexibly respond to whatever the formatting is that you particularly have on your streams, and then take that audio between those start and stop triggers that we're receiving and actually produce a final output for that automatically. One of the most powerful things that we can do with that is what we call our audio logger auto publishing toolset. Audio loggers are a tool within SGRecast that record audio 24/7. They're legitimately logging the audio from your stream, and they present that back via the UI as needed if you wanted to pull an air check or grab a highlight from a show or actually manually publish an entire show as needed. But those, since they have full access to the audio and metadata as it was recorded, can listen for those specific triggers if you're sending them through, and then as soon as a show finishes, take everything that it needs to from the start to the stop, publish it as a discrete file, and we can even target and replace ad break metadata if that was included within your show. So say you have a 3-hour period of audio that has an appropriate start and stop trigger. In those 3 hours, maybe you do, this might be lowballing it, but 2 3-minute breaks per hour. So there's, what is that, 6, 12, 18 minutes worth of break throughout the full 3 hours that you would like to get automatically replaced, for example, via dynamic ad insertion. Those OTA ads you might not want to keep anymore. You might want that audio completely gone from the archive, but you still want those ad breaks to be maintained in some way so that you can actually do the dynamic ad insertion and potentially get some kind of monetization out the digital side for the same show that only originally had OTA. We can very easily and simply do that with the metadata that you're sending. So as long as the metadata is there to target the start stop, as long as the metadata is there to see when breaks are coming through, we can strip out the needed audio, keep the good stuff, and produce a discrete file that's automatically marked properly for server-side delivery of ads. Moving on. So this is a key slide that David Bialik wanted to make sure that I got through to everyone. And it's in regards to metadata. Many people are still trying to figure out what exactly metadata is for their station, what it is for their stream, what metadata they can and can't send, for example. And at the end of the day, really, metadata is just textual information that's being coupled to the audio, right? It can be anything and everything that you want. But at the end of the day, there's only really 2 categories of audio that people are really sending with their, or 2 categories of metadata, sorry, that people are sending with their audio. And that's the now playing information, or PAD metadata, program associated data that some might call it, and potential control metadata. And so our system is, of course, we're constantly listening to and recording all of the metadata that's sent with the stream. So it doesn't particularly matter which form of metadata it is. This is mostly for the organizational side of things on the client side. But for the most part, we only see now playing and the control metadata being what people are sending. So now playing includes artist, title, album, maybe it has artwork, maybe it, your show isn't music related, right? So there's no artist title, but it is the, the morning drive 6 a.m. show or whatever it might be. And you're sending that through. But at the same time, maybe you have particular control metadata that you'd like to also be filtering through that an end user listening in whatever player or whatever device couldn't see, but you still want to make sure it gets through to our system. And that's metadata like the current segment is talk or break or whatever it might be that's being sent, still part of the metadata, but as a part of a separate sort of portion of it that isn't traditionally visible to the end user audience member. All of it is sort of readable, targetable, and actionable as far as our system is concerned. But those are the sort of main concepts to think about. The last sort of primary method of, it's related to recording. I wouldn't necessarily call it traditional recording, but is what we call SGrewind, which is our DVR product. So what we can enable is the automatic sort of buffering of any live stream that you're producing. That, of course, doesn't have to be with us. Again, that could be a stream coming from a different provider, a different host that we can record and buffer on our side and then deliver as DVR. And that can be, as much of a buffer as you really want. It's only really bounded by storage. Most people are doing, say, the last 24 hours available for news, last 72 hours for sports, last 2 weeks for a mixed media station. The biggest thing that people don't try to do with DVR is music, of course, because no one wants to deal with the headache of music rights and DVR. People going and listening to the same song 5 times and trying to figure out royalties for that. No, thank you. But it's still there. So what we can provide with SGrewind is not only a live stream version of your content that is pausable and resumable and rewindable, but can also have automatic hooks built into it so that you can jump back to specific programming. Say you're keeping the last 24 hours of your shows or your station's audio in the DVR buffer, and you have a set weekly schedule of shows that you want available. We can associate an EPG with that stream and that DVR buffer that our player can then show only whatever the shows are available that are within that buffer. So you can have the full week programmed, but only the last 24, 36 hours worth of shows get shown in that program guide, and allow you to jump back to it and listen to it. Our current iteration of SGrewind is very simple to integrate to if you really wanted to. At the end of the day, all the rewind functionality is making a proper stream tune in for what you want based on the time that you want to go back to, or if say you wanted to jump back 5 minutes, there's a particular way to format that stream link and you'll get what you need. So rewind isn't necessarily bound only to our player. If you had a website that you could configure properly to do stuff, or if you had a mobile app that you wanted to enable functionality like this in, it's all there. We even have one client who uses SGrewind to let people play back the entire buffer of their stream, and that's all they let you do, is just have full carte blanche access to 24 hours worth of audio at a time, and you have to figure out what you want. So you can go as simple or as complicated as you want in terms of how people can interact with that buffer of content. You can see here I said blackout supported. Earlier when I was talking about the idea of being able to do blackouts with SGRecast, which I'll talk about a bit more in the broadcast section of my presentation that's about to come up. But if we're doing a DVR window for a stream, you can simultaneously have our system do that broadcasting over of particular time ranges. Say that there's that Sunday night sports game that's being broadcast that you can't syndicate to digital, and we're doing a blackout for that. What we can do is DVR buffer the stream that was blacked out rather than the original stream that has your undesired content on it, and then anyone who's accessing that DVR window will automatically, if no matter how many times they go back to, let's say 4 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, they're not going to get any no football, no baseball, no whatever it might be. So speaking of broadcasting, one of the very important key things that Recast does is enable the ability for you to rebroadcast content back out to your streaming servers. So not only can our system record that audio from your system and provide it for podcasting and etc., we can actually then help you recontribute back to your streams. So earlier I mentioned a use case of doing personality streaming. Say you have a morning show with a particular host that people really like to listen to no matter the time of day, but you really want to give them a live component to go with that. you can have our system have the Monday through Friday 6 to 8 a.m. show that gets recorded for DJ X, whoever it might be, and then from 8 a.m. to the next day at 6 a.m. be rebroadcasting that content of that 2-hour show that just occurred to fill any void space that you might have on your broadcast. You have your main broadcast that is the actual station programming, and then you can have however many additional channels that people can listen to if they just want a live stream of a particular show, a live stream of a particular host. Say you even really want to take the entirety of a podcast that you have for a particular show archive and just loop through that, or even a hits version of that for someone to be able to listen to, so that no matter what, they can tune into a 24/7 broadcast that's playing through the best episodes of a show that you've been able to produce, or the set of all the best clips from a particular show that you might enjoy, right? Our rebroadcasting can be MP3 or AAC. We're hopefully in the near future going to be also working on video broadcasting to various platforms. So if you had the desire to push to social or anything like that, that's all in the realm of possibility with the broadcasting that SGrewind can do. But right now it's heavily focused on that audio component that most people are still working with. And then content blackout. Brought this up a couple of times now. The main use case that we see with non sort of content repurposement broadcasting is blackout broadcasting. So it's that idea of replacing sports content or music content for your rebroadcasts, or your unsyndicatable content, as it might be. And our system makes it fairly straightforward for you to get that stuff going. There's a little orchestration that happens in our side of things to make sure that your actual streams are properly doing the blackout workflows. But for the most part, you'll be able to control what content is going out on your streams when using the broadcasting in SGrewind. And now, the fun part. I'm going to temporarily stop streaming this presentation, and I'm going to switch over to a live demo of our SGrewind platform. Let me know with a thumbs up, Barry, if you guys can see the new screen. Great. All righty. So, SGrewind in all of its glory. We have a lot of different features in the system. So on the left-hand side, you can see sort of all the different features and functionality that are available to the platform. One-stop shop for managing all of the content that is being produced by your system, whether they're archives that are being produced by recording mechanisms, or they're uploads that you need to handle separately or especially, whatever it might be. It's all within the platform. But the biggest things in here to think of that's beyond just sort of what I've been describing so far are some of the more visual components of the powerful capabilities of our system. So we have these tools called audio loggers. I was mentioning them a bit ago in terms of recording 24/7, having full access to and control over the metadata that's being received for a stream, and being able to have the content from your stream be either automatically published or available for you to do manual workflows with. So I can go ahead and I can pop this logger up, and I can hide zoom a little bit because it wants to hide part of my UI. And I can see here our audio logger publishing state, right? When the audio loggers are connecting to streams, they basically are operating in one of two modes. And that's either to be segmenting the audio that it's receiving based on timing. So say you want to record you're doing 24/7 recording of your live stream, but you want it to be easily manageable if you're going to come in here and look at the segments that we're recording without having to deal with very long segments. You can have a segment every 10 minutes, 1 minute, whatever it might be, even hour. so that you can, look through your day in blocks. Or the more powerful version is to have it segment based on metadata. So every time we get a new metadata event, you switch segments, you switch cues, cuts, whatever it might be on your side. Anytime that now playing or that control metadata changes, we can cut off into a new segment. So it's easy for you to go back and see everything that's available to your content. And say, for example, here's a 10-minute range of audio. These segments span a particular set of time. And I can see here when it was recorded, what metadata was seen during that particular segment. These are, we seem to be in the middle of an ad break. So this one has a bunch of ad breaks that are loaded in here. But I can load all of the desired audio that I need to into the logger, into the browser-based editor. And if I really want to, I can go through and I can see sort of where all the differences are, where the segments are butting up against each other. And for example, I need to pull an air check. I can go in and, maybe there's a particular point in time. I know that this, 1-ish minute part of my audio has where I need to pull a clip from. I can add a clip. I can expand that if I need to, or reduce it. And then I can publish that particular segment of audio back out to the system. Maybe you need to pull an air check for a particular ad that was aired over those OTA, or you maybe need to pull a profanity filter slip that happened that didn't get through, but you need to actually pull the audio for that to verify or do some QA on that. And that's all easily done through this particular interface. One of the things, say you were going to actually do an entire show export manually through this tool, you grab your half an hour, your 1 hour, your 3 hours even worth of segments that you need to produce your show, and you've got your clip going, but you have ad breaks in there that you desperately want to make sure either get replaced or inserted for, so that you don't have those OTA ads going over still. You can actually do that replacement. For example, say you have a period of time that you can't have in there, or say you have a nice moment that you want to do a ad break insertion for. Easily enough, mark those breaks, save it back down, and we'll automatically put them appropriately in the extracted audio. So audio loggers are both automated from a particular perspective, as long as you have the good enough metadata to do that, but also afford you a good deal of a manual workflow to make sure you can, do some of those more manual workflows like pulling out air checks, but also, maybe automated publishing failed for whatever reason, and you need to do a sort of a disaster recovery manual publish. That's there. Or someone's asking for a particular part of the day's programming to get exported that you weren't expecting, so it wasn't in the metadata properly anyway. You can still go in and get that. Everything is there for as long as your window is to grab it. Easily enough done. One of the sort of other more visual components in our system that I'm sure people would want to know is that even if you're doing scheduled recording, for example, you got a 9 to 10 show that you're recording every day. Sometimes that 9 to 10 show maybe starts late, ends early. Maybe it isn't the most flexible, but timing is the best you got. You can't necessarily go in and make all of your metadata perfect to get a clean start and stop for your recordings. It doesn't necessarily matter, because even if you're doing a scheduled recording of your shows, I'll take this one for example, I can pull that up into a waveform editor on the system, and I can actually do, if I really need to, full head and tail trimming. Say I want to get this, cut inside and move. I just deleted most of my show on accident. Outside and move is the one I want. There we go. And so now I've, head and tail trimmed it. Maybe I need to cut out this particular piece of audio, and then I can do that inside move I was talking about. If you don't want to do ad replacement and you just want to cut the OTA audio out to create a true clean recording, you can take, maybe that was an ad break, maybe that was an ad break, and maybe this was an ad break. And now you have a reduced set that is just the audio you want. you can go ahead and you save that back, and that becomes your new true sort of archive copy of what you were doing. Even while I'm doing this editing, you can sort of undo mistakes that you've made. For example, go all the way back to the original. It's all non-destructive until you hit that save button. So anything you need to do to clean up your recordings, cut out bad audio, do any kind of sort of simple editing to make sure that you've got things taken care of from automation that maybe didn't go through as cleanly as you wanted. It's all there, good to go. If anyone has any questions at this time, before I jump back into the remainder of the demo, I can take them now.
I had a couple of questions. Bill Dawson wants to ask, since the blackout stop time is variable, how does the station send the stop time?
So there are a couple cool ways that you can do that. Most blackouts that we deal with are based on particular scheduling. So you just have a particular blackout schedule that you set up. But there is the capability, for example, to use the API to dynamically start and stop broadcasts, or you can even just via the UI enable and disable broadcasts as needed to flexibly end blackouts that you might need to. So say you need to be blacking out for an hour and a half, but you actually need to resume 2 minutes early for whatever reason. All you have to do is go in the system, hit deactivate on that blackout, and you've gotten yourself back into your main content, or even use the API just to ping that deactivate if you have a custom dashboard that you're doing things from that you don't necessarily want to log into the platform to do. So should be pretty simple to do.
Chris Hayes asked a question which I think you demonstrated. He asks, are edits non-destructive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as I was showing, I think I'm still screen sharing.
Yes.
This one. The edits are non-disruptive until the point where you save those edits down. So if we're going through and I want to cut that inside out, I don't necessarily want to auto join my audio quite yet, and then I want to go through and kill that other section of audio. This is not actually removing that audio permanently until you hit the save button, so you can always undo and get that audio back and go back to your true set until the point that you save. Once you save, we actually then process all of those mutations that you did back to the source file. And at that point, then it is thoroughly destroyed and destructive. But up until that point, you can always make it as clean as you want, re-listen to it as many times as you need to make sure it's what you want, save it, good to go.
Good. Anyone else have a question at this point? If you'd like to do so, just hit your space bar or alternate A, and you'll unmute.
Great. So I should now be back on my PowerPoint. Great. So let's move on a little bit to some not necessarily recast, but things that are used well in hand with recast. So StreamGuys as a actual content distribution company have many capabilities related to controlling the access to your content. So we've been talking a lot about content blackout broadcasts to prevent sports games, for example, from being accessible outside of your listener area. That is mostly from the perspective of you not being able to control who can listen to your digital streams, but we actually have full capability to do geo-blocking and geo-targeting for the streams that are hosted by StreamGuys and delivered by StreamGuys. So say, for example, you have a stream that does have OTA audio that is only available to, let's say, the 75 radius mile area around your station. We can help you out with making sure that the primary stream that has the audio only available to that region can only be accessed from the people listening in that area. And if they aren't in that area get redirected to alternate content as needed, or just completely get blocked if you only want people in, say, your city, your market, your DMA, whatever you have access to actually listen to your audio. It's simple enough to block them as well. And for the most part, people are using this in conjunction with things like blackouts or with content restrictions, like sports is the biggest one, because sports licensing is a huge headache for many people, but it's all doable with us. One of the other big things that StreamGuys can help with is protecting the content itself from being misused or abused in any way by people that you don't necessarily want to be able to listen to it. We do that via a product called SG Passkey. It has a few different forms, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to having tokenized protection for your streams. So those can be things that we help you produce and that are long-lived. Say you want a stream that if someone found it on the public internet for whatever reason, they couldn't access it, but you wanted your mobile app to be able to play it back properly. You could have a token that your mobile app uses to play the stream that works, and anyone else who tries to play that stream can't. So that's one way that people use our tokenization to protect their content. The other way is to dynamically produce the tokens themselves. So we help provide the mechanisms you need to generate those encrypted tokens, and then we receive them on the streaming server, and we can make a number of decisions based on where that content was being accessed from, where your platform is generating the token from, whether or not we should allow the access to the content because they weren't on the proper refer. Maybe they got the right token from your site because they ripped it out of their streaming request, but they tried to plug it into a different website. Now it doesn't work because it's not coming from the right location. There are a number of different ways that we can have that tokenization and protection applied to the streams such that they fit a number of different use cases needed for your particular streaming needs. The biggest reason that most people are doing that is to prevent that abuse. So they don't want web crawlers or any other kind of robot or stream scraping utilities to be able to sort of auto harvest or rehost their content without their permission. You add tokenization to your streams, and no one can do that unless you give them the needed keys to the kingdom, as it were, for that content. And final, just a full recap. SGReCast is a very complex platform, but it's very powerful for many people's use cases. Whether you're recording, broadcasting, wanting to rebroadcast, podcast, DVR, there's a large bevy of functionality available to SGReCast that can help you automate or expedite any of the workflows that you might normally have been doing within your studio manually or yourself that might be much more easily done from a cloud-hosted environment through StreamGuys. I think I saw a chat pop up. I can try to answer that question now. Is alternate content recorded in your server or a second stream from us to you? It could be either or. So that falls into the realm of content fallback. We can support a number of different methods of doing that. The most common that people do is they produce a stream from SGReCast to be that fallback content, and that either becomes the blackout content or just let's say disaster recovery content in case their main encoder goes down, but they still want something to be playing through. But that stream could also come from you directly. So you could be broadcasting both a primary, and I mean, if you're worried about the encoder going down, maybe that same encoder shouldn't be the one that's sending that secondary stream of content, but we've definitely seen that before. We have some alternate content you want in case the main programming goes offline. It's all simply done from our side. Does anyone else have any questions about what I've covered so far for SGReCast and the various cases that we can help cover?
Bob has asked, when you're editing, can you listen to the audio to check your edits?
Yes, you can. Yeah, so while you are, let me switch my screen back to the recast demo. So while you are doing this process, say I deleted absolutely everything, and this is all the audio I had left. I can, ooh, that is nice and loud. I can, listen back through that content, and it will accurately represent that this is all the audio I have left. So say I try to, yeah, you see the seek bar now is only what I have, and then it'll play through an end, and it stops. So yeah, while you're doing any of these edits, you can see completely that the audio is what you want it to be. If you make smaller edits, you can easily go in and listen to that region. One of the things that you can also do is that zooming is very granular in this editor. So, I mean, here's 5 seconds worth of an hour-long file, right? I can go ahead and I can cut that audio out, move my playhead. Ooh, seeking while zoomed is a little fun, but I can review that portion of audio as needed and get what finicky get what I need out of it, and hear the cuts and edits that I've done. It's playing through, it's listening to silence right now because I didn't stitch the 2 clips back together, and it resumed back to the audio on the other side. So yeah, while you're doing your edits, destructive, non-destructive, whatever it might be, you can get what you need going. One of the important things too is that even if you're going to keep this source audio, maybe for example you don't want to make edits to this and then just save it back to the original file, what we can do is say we cut out that portion of audio, we cut out that portion of audio, and we want to keep what was left, and we're good to go. What we can do is create a clip from that and just export the audio we want. So that can be the full edited audio that I just did, or I can actually, if I really wanted, just extract a particular segment of audio, give it a title and description, save that back to the system, and you'll actually have a separate new piece of content added to the platform that is related back to your source file. So you have a your source archive, your source upload, and then a new clip that's related to them. If you want that clip that you extracted from it could be used to replace that audio, say in a podcast, for whatever reason you want to keep that source file around, but you want to have a cleaned up version of it actually be distributed for your audience to listen to, then you just say make this clip the active source, and anytime it gets rendered for a podcast or a broadcast, we'll use the clip version instead of the original source, and that's all flexibly there for you to do.
Dan Mamone has a question here, which I may expand a little bit on for you. He asks, what's the streaming reliability and what issues are most common to the listener? And I'll just add to it this: with several streaming services, you've shown us many of your features, but if you could sort of put it down into 1 or 2 sentences, why would someone choose StreamGuys over the competition?
Well, it's actually simple enough to fit into 1 or 2 sentences. StreamGuys provides an incredibly reliable uptime for their client base. We have 24/7, 365 support that are always available for you. They're US based in our home offices, so you're not calling out to India or anything else. We're all deeply integrated with the company, and they'll have great expertise to help you out if they need to get you back online, help you out figure something with getting some alternate content up. Say your entire station goes down for weather or internet or whatever it might be that brings you offline, then they can do what they can to help you get online using alternate content if we have the capability of doing that, or if you have a recast, for example, help you get a secondary broadcast going up.
I know that out here, one of the Native American nations, the Tohono O'odham, have started working with you folks. They've found your product to match their needs and capabilities, which is good. But to go back to Dan's mention, what issues are most common for a listener that the station might want to have a frequently asked question file for?
Yeah, for the most part, the issues we see mostly seem related, since it's an internet streaming environment that we're mostly dealing with for end listeners, is disruption to their network connection. So if you're doing traditional IceCast broadcasting, then you might have people that are on their mobile networks and they're transitioning from one tower to another, and that disrupts the stream and completely disconnects them, and they don't resume properly at all. And that's, we get a lot of like, their stream just stopped, and you're like, well, what were they doing? Oh, they were driving across the city. Okay, well, what were they? They were listening to your IceCast only stream. Most of the ways that people get around that are by moving to newer streaming methodologies, like using something like HLS from Apple, to do segmented, non-linear, but still it's live streaming that's more resilient for things like mobile data connections and etc. Because you're downloading segments of audio, and even if you transition from tower to tower, your playback is constantly looking for that new audio, as opposed to live streams that tend to keep one consistent connection, and once you disconnect, you might be completely out of it until you try to force a play again, for example, and hope no one's in the middle of the highway slamming on the play button on their phone hoping they can get back on the stream. Instead, just use HLS and you're pretty much good to go. Most of the other time that people are having issues, it's usually related to the actual source. So maybe there's some part of the DSP chain on the encoder side that's not happy, or there's some amount of jitter or elsewise issue between the encoder and our streaming servers that are having an issue getting audio to us quickly enough, and with enough sort of oomph to make sure that there's enough data to actually serve consistently to their listeners. But most of that is usually addressed from the encoder level or the station network level. For the most part, end listener issues with audio tend to be less, let's call them platform specific and more user specific. Lots of a PEBCAC, or I don't know what a mobile phone version of PEBCAC is these days, but problem between hand and hand, maybe. Who knows?
Okay. Do you have a slide here with some contact information for your
yes, let
email
me
and
switch my
voicemail?
screen back to this.
Robert, can I ask a question?
Switch to question. Yes.
On your slide prior to passkey,
Yep.
you had a bullet at the bottom, and I think you've already covered it, about loss of programming from the station to the stream. I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember what the bullet actually said.
Let me try to pull that back up for you. See, that's the passkey slide. Staying compliant, play code. Oh, the archive content to avoid dead air. Is that the one you're referring to?
For some reason, I was just thinking you were going to hit that bullet and you were going to address either going off the air and replacing content, and then we went to passkey. So I don't remember what
I think I ended up covering it in a number of other places that my brain just skipped over it. Yeah, it's basically the concept of using the broadcasting within SGRecast to either rebroadcast archived content or other content similar to get a playlist up on a USB stick to plug in the back of an encoder. Instead, you just have a playlist on our system, and it'll automatically broadcast that out to an alternate mount for you to either have your main listeners listen to if your main feed goes offline, or if you're in a particular time of geo restriction where your current broadcasting audio can't be listened to, and we can redirect them to that alternate feed that you're producing, to prevent them from just getting a no response. It's all there to do.
I don't know how many people use your service. I have a station that's an LP and uses the reflector. And I can attest to the fact that there is a tech there 24/7.
Yes, yeah, the barracks reflector service, our good old STL solution. I'm glad to hear good feedback on you for that one. But yeah, the 24/7 support gets well used, that's for sure. All right, let me move back to. So yeah, if there's any sort of direct contact that anyone wants to make with our company to either talk about services, or if you have existing services, you want to get new services, or you want to discuss any of what we've been going over today for any of your needs, StreamGuys.com/contact will give you a number of different avenues of support and or sales contact if you need to. But if you're coming to us just straight, you can email sales@streamguys.com, or use the contact form that's on our website, or the number that's listed here, which is also on that support or that contact page. And I can guarantee someone will get back to you for helping you out. I see a question from Dan. What is the audio logger actually recording from? It's recording from a live stream. So right now it can connect to any IC compliant, so IceCast or Shoutcast 2 live stream, and we will record the stream and the audio from that. What we are going to be working on in the next couple months is enabling support for the audio logger to actually also record from HLS or potentially other segmented methodology streams, so that we can move beyond only support for IceCast. But for the most part, people are still producing IceCast, even if it's just for the sanity check side of things, and they're using HLS for the actual delivery to clients. The IceCast is there for us to work from. And then Tyler just posted into the comments the email and the number if you wanted to copy it from there, and not just read it from my slide. Thank you, Tyler, for being a good wingman there. Yes, and thank you, Dave, for having me. Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts they want to discuss while we've got the opportunity?
Robert?
Yes, David.
One of the nice things also that really wasn't touched upon because it's still in the development stage is that metadata, even though there is a lot of queuing and other information in there, eventually it will also have audio controls like loudness and so forth in the metadata. And so that's a step in the future, and the future is probably only within the next year, really. Television's already doing it.
Yeah, I don't remember what the new recommendation is. Was it TD 104, 1004, or 1008?
Of next month it'll be TD 108. I just got the number today.
Good, cool. Yeah, I know that the AES has been working on that for a while. So we'll see if people actually start adopting that. Control metadata for things like loudness would be great, especially on our side, because then we can automate gain controls, for example. If there are platforms that don't necessarily support them yet, we could potentially read that metadata in and apply it automatically so that the master of it was that new loudness as needed. But there's a lot of cool stuff we might be able to do in the future because of that.
Well, I'm sure part of what your folks are always thinking about is improving features, adding features, making it easier for stations and listeners to connect. And sounds from what I've heard, that's where you're going.
Yeah, we try to do what we can. I guess one question I have for the group, since this is one of the few times that we really get a chance to talk to a bunch of engineers directly, and it's usually let's not call them the higher ups, but the more sales or let's call them contract signing side of things. What is all of your experience like dealing with, live stream encoding, dealing with that in addition to OTA, working with things like streaming tools in the cloud, like we've been talking about? I'm sure for many people, using a cloud platform to deal with their stream is maybe even beyond what you've been trying just to get going now, potentially for the last 5 to 10 years, as we move into a more streaming heavy side of things. Are there any sort of misgivings that anyone has had with trying to deal with streaming and getting that kind of stuff going that we might be able to help think about and accommodate?
Did I hear you say that you discourage the use of barracks boxes?
I do not. Barracks is great. Barracks is a partner of ours. I think it was Barracks Reflector was the comment someone was making in terms of getting good support for us for that product. I think STL in general is a solution that most people require a lot of support with at times. So that's more of a STL comment, I think, at that time than anything. Barracks is a great, reliable, and cheap company for their encoders. They certainly don't try to gouge you too hard for some things. And they're definitely boxes that get you where you need to go. Plug them in, they turn on, they get your audio where they need to go, and for the most part, they stay alive for a long time. So they're good boxes in my mind.
I won't ask you if there's any that you want people to stay away from, but
I haven't met an encoder that didn't make me happy for at least a little bit, so I don't know yet.
Good. Well, that's what we want to hear.
Unless you're using BUT as a software encoder, then I might just walk away. But hardware encoders, haven't met one yet that I don't like.
One of the things that we have had demonstrated for us, and probably will be back again, Craig Oganowski, you mentioned HLS and his streaming. He's done a lot of work to improve the way audio hits the stream.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of work recently with Greg to, let's call it, expedite integrations between his direct HLS encoders and the CDN layer. So we certainly have a lot of experience with him. I think most recently he also was on here for Radio DJ, which is a joint venture between his company and ours, actually. So it's fun to listen through the Radio DJ presentation and think of all the things that we've dealt with on our side with that product and the development of it. So
he promises to come back with the version 3 setup and operation pretty soon.
I hope so.
Well, Robert, I'm not chasing you away, but I do want to thank you for your presentation, for the information. It's been really interesting and illuminative. If there are more questions, somebody's happy to speak up, but I just want to make sure that I thank you and appreciate what you do.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I was happy to join. We're always glad to connect with the community more.